Napadi Uttampani. Rajyo hi paramo dharma. Sasato nyan yatha shastram. Anapadyutpataniya. Rajyo hi paramo dharma. Swadharma sthanupalanam. Shashato nyan yatha shastram. Anapadya utapaniya. Rajyo hi paramo dharma. Swadharma sthanupalanam. Shastrato nyayatha shastram. Anapade utapatnaniya. Please repeat word for word. Rajna, Rajya of the king or the executive head. He certainly. Parama, supreme. Dharma, occupational duty. Swadharmastha, one who is faithful to his prescribed duty. Anupalanam, giving protection always. Shasta, while ruling. Anyan, others. Yatha, according to. Shastram, rulings of scriptures. Anapadi, without danger. Utpathan, persons going astray. Iha, as a matter of fact. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. The supreme duty of the ruling king is to give all protection to law-abiding persons and to chastise those who stray from the ordinances of the scriptures in ordinary times when there is no emergency. Purport. In the scriptures, there is mention of apad dharma or occupational duty at times of extraordinary happenings. It is said that sometimes the great sage Vishwamitra had to live on the flesh of dogs in some extraordinary dangerous position. In cases of emergency, one may be allowed to live on the flesh of animals of all description. But that does not mean that there should be regular slaughterhouses to feed the animal eaters, and that this system should be encouraged by the state. No one should try to live on flesh in ordinary times simply for the sake of the palate. If anyone does so, the king or the executive head should punish him for gross enjoyment. There are regular scriptural injunctions for different persons engaged in different occupational duties, and one who follows them is called Swadharmastha, or faithful in one's prescribed duties. In the Bhagavad Gita 18.48, it is advised that one should not give up his occupational prescribed duties, even if they are not always flawless. Such swadharma might be violated in cases of emergency if one is forced by circumstances, but they cannot be violated in ordinary times. The state executive head is to see that such swadharma is not changed by the follower, whatever it may be, and he should give all protection to the follower of swadharma. The violator is subject to punishment in terms of the Shastra, and the duty of the king is to see that everyone strictly follows his occupational duty as prescribed in the scripture. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for coming for the Bhagavatam class this morning. So, there's 2 points mentioned in this. Can we have the volume down a little? It's just backfeeding in my ears. Thank you. So, there's 2 important points that is mentioned in this purport by Prabhupada. So, Prabhupada uses this story of Vishwamitra. So, anyone know this story of the sage Vishwamitra eating meat? Yeah. So, well, it's hard to find in the Bhagavatam or anywhere else. I was trying to find, but so the story is not very, I don't know what's the authentic source, but there's this version of the story that I read that before the start of Dwapara Yuga, there was like a big famine. There was like a 12 years. For that famine lasted for 12 years, you know. And it's like described like there was no, practically everything was just like very chaotic, you know. There was like no food left. There was like no fruits or vegetables around, and everything was just like very dark. Animals were running around killing each other. Even the sages were killing each other out of hunger. I was remembering, I was hearing a lecture from Radhanath Maharaj, and he was mentioning this point about like how, you know, when he lived in forest and with all those sadhus and sages, and he was mentioning that sometimes hunger can bring the worst in people. And I thought that was like a very true and valid point. Like we see in today's time, you know, sometimes half the world is dying of hunger and people are doing things that they should not be doing, you know. They're engaged in activities like especially like in Los Angeles or like in places like India, maybe some places, you know, when there's hard to find food and people are very poor, you know. So they automatically get engaged in this bad activities, you know, like of stealing and all that stuff. So when Vishwamitra could not find anything to eat, he was like dying of hunger. Being a Brahmana, he's not supposed to indulge in eating of these low quality products, you know. He's supposed to be eating the best quality clean products. That's what it was mentioned, that a Brahmana should only eat clean foodstuffs, you know, rather than eating non-clean. So eating the flesh of an animal is considered non-clean foodstuff for a Brahmana. It's not very purifying. It's not good for health either. So one should remember to only engage in eating clean products like the prasad. And when we're eating the prasad is offered to Krishna, that's the most purest form of food that we can eat, you know, whatever we offer to Krishna and they need it. So Vishwamitra, after struggling around, he was running around forest like a madman. He was very hungry and he was trying to look for some food to eat because, you know, when you're hungry, nothing else seems important in life. Has anyone ever been hungry before, or is it just me? Yeah, because, you know, when sometimes we feel hunger, nothing comes to mind, you know. Everything the only thing you can meditate upon is food, you know. And how should I get more food? And anything at that point you get is good, you know. It'll just satisfies you. Sometimes once a Prabhu asked me that, how's the prasad tasting? You know, how's the prasad taste? I'm like, it depends on how hungry I am, you know. Because when you're hungry, automatically whatever you eat will taste nectar because, you know, hunger can do that to you. So at that time, Vishwamitra was like struggling very hard to find food, anything to eat, you know. There was no roots plant or anything was not there, you know. Even the animals, because a lot of people were hunting animals, so even hard to find animals over there. So Vishwamitra was on a travel mission. He was traveling around just trying to find any food he can get for him and his family. But he couldn't find anything, you know. He couldn't find anything. But one day he stumbled across this area where there was like Chandalas used to live, you know. Like he could see that there was dog flesh hanging around over there, and, you know, there was like bones and all that stuff. It was just like, yeah, very like low quality areas, where Brahmanas are not supposed to go or should not be there. So and then Vishwamitra went there and he saw that there was some meat of a dog in the house of a Chandala. So first he was very disappointed that I am in this position that I have to, steal and hunt down this low quality thing that I should not be eating. So he was speaking to himself that, should I be doing that? Because I should be doing that because I'm very hungry, The Shastras say that at the time of emergency, when there is a time when nothing is available, then you can indulge in eating the low quality foodstuffs. So Prabhupada also mentions the point that dog and hogs are like low quality animals, so low conscious animals, so their flesh can be consumed at the time of emergency, not all the time, only at the time of emergency. Prabhupada was giving a lecture where he was, well, not lecture, he was having a discussion with this priest or something from Italy. There's a video, we must have seen that one, where he's fighting that people are hungry, we have to feed them, and the priest was saying, so Prabhupada was saying, at the time of when needed, if it's very much needed to feed the flesh of low animals, with low conscious animals, but no cost should cow be slaughtered. At no cost, a cow should be slaughtered and feeded. That's not good. That's because we believe in cow protection. For someone who treats cow as mothers will not kill their own mothers and feed it. So cows should not be feeded at any times, even if it's time of emergency. Cows should not be touched. Because if you have a cow, at the end of the day, you still can get milk products, and you can get milk, and that's nourishing for you and for the whole family. So the cow should not be touched. So going back to Vishwamitra, so he saw this piece of flesh that was kept, skin, like a dog skin, was kept in this home of a Chandala. So he waited all night. He waited for the night to come when all the Chandalas go to sleep so he can go and steal it. And when he went to steal it, the Chandala woke up because, it's the dark times. It's, he's protecting his stuff as well. He's not going to let anyone just come inside and steal it because he can understand this will happen. If you have something very precious materially, you're always in anxiety, That's the point. In today's time, we can see if anyone owns like $1 billion or like have an expensive car, and everyone is just so much anxiety that this car can be stolen or damaged. I remember once I got a very expensive cell phone, mobile phone when I was very young. That was my first very expensive cell phone. I spent like 3 months of my salary on just getting that cell phone. And every second, I was feeling that, if this goes, I'll just have a big heart attack. Has anyone ever had that feeling when they put their hands in the pocket and they realize the phone's not there and they just almost have like this sudden heart attack? Or is it just me? Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. When we have these possessions, expensive stuff, things become very difficult. We just meditate on these expensive things that we own. And some things that is very precious to us that becomes like, if this gets stolen, I need to protect it at all costs, So that Chandala was doing the same thing. He was protecting his little piece of meat that he had left. And Vishwamitra was there. He was trying to steal that. A Brahmana indulging in these activities, And the Chandala saw, he's like, who are you, What are you doing here? What are you trying to take my meat for, You don't look like a Chandala or anyone else. What are you, like a visitor here or something? And then Vishwamitra says that I am very hungry. I haven't had anything to eat for a very long time. And I request you to please let me take this meat and let me eat it because I am very, very hungry and I'm starving very much. But then Chandala had a conversation. Now, it's more like a detailed conversation. I'm not going to go into details of what he said and stuff because it's not very useful for us to hear. So the point is that even at the time, in the dark times, when the times are very difficult, then you can indulge in this emergency and stuff, But Prabhupada says, but when there is sufficient food, we should not indulge in meat eating especially, because that's the most sinful thing, killing another living entity. So I was reading that in today's time, in Kali Yuga, especially in the United States, there was a research that I was hearing. It says that 48% of the land in the United States is dedicated to grow food to feed the cows so they can slaughter that cow. at the end, so they can get bulky and then they can get slaughtered and get more meat out of that. And if an intelligent person thinks to use all the land just to grow for humans, there will be no problem. There will be no starvation. But again, to fulfill the desires and sense gratification of few living entities, this whole world has to suffer. That's the point that Prabhupada is mentioning, that a king should not allow that. For a king, every living entity is to be taken care upon, not just human entities in his kingdom. He needs to care about also the trees, also the animals, everyone. Every civil living entity, everyone that's breathing should be taken care of, because everything is part and parcel of Krishna. Everyone is a living entity and everyone has deserve and right to live. We should not just use it as an advantage. Or like in today's time, we see so many kings or so many leaders don't really care what's happening in the society, what people are doing. All they want is sense gratification. They want a little bit of money. Just for a little bit extra money, they are going to do the most horrifying things we can imagine. So we should remember that Shastras are very important. Only based on the Shastras one to follow the principles. If sometimes principles cannot be followed, they can be adjusted, but based on the Shastra, For example, in today's time, Kali Yuga, our sacrifice or our mission is Sankirtan, Harinam Sankirtan. And when Prabhupada went to the West, it was a time of emergency because he had to do things that he would not want to do. He had to do things that he never imagined he would have to do, Like, for example, Prabhupada being like a scholarly Brahmana, he was living with like these hippies, and sharing one apartment with the hippies where there was unclean hygiene, like everything was just like very muchi, very disturbing. But Prabhupada did not give up. He did not just say that, he just used it as an opportunity. He saw is that, okay, these are horrible times. I have been brought to this place where everything needs to be done properly. And Prabhupada did not just say that, these guys are hopeless, there's no scope that I can do with these guys, I'm going to go back to Vrindavan. Prabhupada left Vrindavan to go to West in the total opposite direction, But Prabhupada never gave up. Prabhupada always tolerated whatever happened initially, we can see these stories in Lilamrita, how Prabhupada was so tolerant. And these guys were coming in with like LSD and doing other sorts of drugs, and they were just creating some disturbance sometimes. But Prabhupada did not just like start complaining. He felt very tolerant. He was very tolerant. So that makes me remind that tolerance is very important. Tolerance is very important to practice Krishna consciousness as well. In anything, tolerance is very important, Even if you're in a material life, you have to tolerate your boss, which 99% of people don't like, but you have to tolerate. So you have to tolerate in the material world and even sometimes in Krishna consciousness, we have to tolerate. We have to tolerate the sufferings from our own mind and body. We have to tolerate suffering from the environment or nature or health problems, There's so much things we have to tolerate, but the point is we should not give up the practice. We should not give up Krishna consciousness because things are a bit shaky, Because we should realize the ultimate goal, that this body we have to leave at one day. And there will be disturbances for this body, especially in today's time, Mental disturbances are even greater than the bodily disturbances. So we should remember that, and we should try and focus what Prabhupada has given us, because what Prabhupada has given us is a gateway back to Goloka Vrindavan. It's an easy escape. That's what I put it, You just follow what Prabhupada has given us, and everything will be easy. That's what all the gurus say. Of course, I don't follow it yet that much, but I should be. So we should all remember that. And so just a king, so the duty of a king is to remember that everyone should be well taken care of in his kingdom, A king should not be envious, because what is envy, Envy doesn't just mean that I want what you have. Envy means that I want you to go down, I want you to suffer. I want you to feel that. So I was reading this story, this pastime of Daksha, We all know that pastime where Daksha got so envious of this great living entity, great devotee of the Lord Shiva, and he just he forgot about everything else. He sacrificed his own daughter because of envy. This is what envy can do, Even the greatest people in the world, if taken by envy, they just destroy everything around them. It's just cause of destruction, envy, So one should not be envious. For example, we see Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Lord Ramachandra came to earth. In all his pastimes, he was sent away from his home, He had to live in horrible conditions. He even sent his wife away because the king needs to do his responsibility. He never got envious for anyone, He never felt envious. And that's how a king should be. A king should not work on based of envy. Like in today's time, we see so many leaders are envious of their own self sometimes, They're like always envious that this is not great, Like for example, a special leader of United States, the current president, it was once he was giving a lecture in United Nations or something, and he was saying that everyone else is doing wrong and I am doing the right thing. And like it was talking about some environmental factors or something. So, well, it's not important. But the point is that our current leaders, like majority of them, almost everyone, is like very envious towards other living entities or towards other leaders from around the world. So we should realize that the ultimate goal is Krishna consciousness and to be Krishna conscious. So envy can come and destruct, just like when Daksha, he came, just because Lord Shiva did not stand up and greet him when he arrived. He got envious. Just by this small reason, So look, this is a very mundane reason to feel envious and cause a big destruction afterwards, Has everyone, I'll tell you a story from my childhood. I have seen real life people getting envy of these tiny little things. When I was a kid, one day I did not greet my teacher, and she just, next 6 months, she just decided that I'm going to ruin this guy, Even when I was writing good papers, she was giving me a low grade mark, because she was just very envious because I did not decide to greet her once. So this can happen to anyone, even in Krishna consciousness, sometimes people get envious, I have seen that happening, and it's just very disturbing. And out of envy, people don't realize what they're saying because the mind is going mental, The mind just wants to just frustrated with anger and just hate towards another people. And then you don't realize what you speak, and then you make offenses and offenses after offenses. So envy can do that to sometimes. So we should be very careful. Imagine if Daksha had read Shikshastakam, how different things would be. Sunichena, what was the verse that we chant every day in the morning? Sunitena. Amananina mananina kirtaniya sadahari. Imagine if Daksha would have read that. Amananina mananina kirtaniya sadahari. How different things would be, He would not be doing all these things to Lord Shiva because only a person who can tolerate and who can think everyone else, no matter if you're a superior or a junior, greater or a better person, you should. I just got reminded of a story from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur times about this similar topic. So one day, the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur went to him and they told him that, oh no, this is going wrong. He's not doing this job properly. He's not doing that properly. He's not chanting properly. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur just went and he said, what's wrong with him? He's chanting better than I am, He's still chanting. I'm not chanting right now. He's chanting right now. So he's actually doing better. He's more Krishna conscious than me right now. And the disciple was shocked, Like his spiritual master is talking in that way. So this is what we should realize. We should not complain or we should not try and defame other people. Because sometimes it can be out of envy or it can be out of disrespect. Or, if we see someone succeeding, we should be proud and we should help that person succeed. Just like our spiritual master, I was reading this, I heard this line where the glory of a spiritual master is to see how well he has trained his disciple. A spiritual master does not get envious of his disciple if he succeeds, When Shukadev Goswami appeared, there was many greater sages or higher rank people sitting over there, in the assembly. And they did not get envy. They were not pulling out ranks, They were not saying that I am more superior. I am like this Gotra, I am like the 6th generation or the 7th generation. I should be speaking, he should not be speaking. He's not qualified. Nobody did that. Everyone just kept quiet and they just listened. Shukadev Goswami glorifying the Supreme Lord. Because a great sage or a true wise person enjoys and relishes the pastime of Krishna, even if it's spoken by a person who's not qualified to do so. And talking about qualification, Prabhupada mentions that everyone should do their duty. I was reading Bhagavad Gita where there's a verse, I don't remember the Sanskrit, maybe you guys can help me out. But the verse says that one should do their duty properly or imperfectly rather than do someone else's duty properly. Is that what's the verse? You remember the verse where it says that? One should do their duty imperfectly rather than do someone else's duty perfectly, or something like that. You remember the verse? I can't remember. So, well, there was a verse like that, and it's very beautiful. Krishna is telling us, it's good to do your own duty. Prabhupada mentions in this purport as well, where he says that. He's mentioning Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 48, where it says that every endeavor is covered by some fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work from his nature. O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault, We often see that people make mistakes, This is our human nature. This is part of our thing, for faults, we make faults. We are supposed to make mistakes. So we should not just judge people, and we should not just start disrespecting a person because he has made a mistake. We should encourage him more, that he can make advancement. He can do his service properly. So Prabhupada mentions in this beautiful example that Krishna has given us of a fire is covered by smoke. Has anyone ever seen a fire before? Or is it just me? Yeah. So when we see fire, sometimes there is smoke in fire. We can see smoke coming out. The fire is covered by smoke. And smoke is very unclean. Because of smoke doesn't mean that fire is unclean. Fire is still very clean. So what Prabhupada is trying to say, we should do our duty properly without thinking because of little faults. If the faults are there, that's okay. You learn from them and you make yourself better and improve so that you don't do it in the future. But that doesn't mean you should stop doing your duty. You should continue to do your duty in the best possible manner that's given to you. So just like a Brahmana was reading a Bhagavad Gita, I remember the story that he was reading the Bhagavad Gita upside down or something like that, And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was walking past and he saw this Brahmana, he was reading who didn't know how to read, and he was trying to read, And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu he asked him, why are you reading? Why are you reading upside down? What are you doing, He's like, I can't read the book, but my spiritual teacher has given me this service to read, to read Bhagavad Gita. He's asked me to do this, so I am doing this. And that's when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt like he has understood Bhagavad Gita. He knows the essence of Bhagavad Gita. So he was doing his duty as told by his spiritual teacher. And we should all remember that. We should do our duty, whatever's been assigned to us. There will be times we think we cannot do this duty. I met people that find it very difficult to go on book distribution sometimes, It's very difficult service for them because they are very not in that personality of speaking. But they still do it. They still go out there because as a service. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Even though imperfectly, then do others dharma, even though perfectly. By doing one's innate duty, the person does not interfere.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So that's the one. Where was I? Yeah. So when we go on book distribution, we should remember that this is Prabhupada's mission, and we should try to fulfill it fully and respect that. And no matter sometimes it's difficult, this service, especially for our TSKP team, who have been trying very hard and going through a lot of, austerities, but they've been tolerating because to fulfill this desire of Prabhupada. So I pay my obeisances and respects to this beautiful service that they have been doing. Hopefully, maybe one day I'll be qualified to do that as well. So yeah, I'll just keep this class short as I was told. So is there any questions, comments, or corrections? All right, we'll just end here. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hari Bol. Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.